Now presenting Shafin Tajani with Victory Square Technologies.
Great, 50 most stragglers. Good morning. Thank you everyone for attending and allowing me to share the Victory Square story. Seeing some new faces and some old faces. Really excited to present and share our story with everybody. So my name is Shafin Diamond. I'm the CEO of Victory Square Technologies. We provide VC investment access to some of the world's most innovative early stage companies with one stop. Before I get into the presentation, I just want to give you some background on myself. So I started in the mid 90s in the online dating space during the .com era. So I was one of those kids that was tinkering with computers. I remember my parents telling me, stop wasting your time with games and computers. It's going to get you nowhere. Thankfully, I didn't listen to them. And we started an online dating site, and we became very good at driving traffic and converting that traffic into paying users. We then started to buy, build, and invest in businesses that we could take users from our dating sites onto. So we transitioned into online gaming, and if anyone can remember, ringtones, which was a really nice business back in the day. We refer to this as a venture build model. This is kind of the crux of what Victory Square is today. It's our unique advantage. And since the late 90s, we've ridden successive waves from Web 1.0, 2.0 to 3.0, and today's innovative tech such as AI. We've launched over 40 companies in over 20 countries, generating over $1 billion in enterprise value. So, we've got a lot of experience, and throughout those years, buying, building, and investing businesses around the world, we built a really, really good team and partnerships with Shopify, Google, a lot of other large tech companies that provide a unique advantage to our portfolio companies. So what is the problem or the pain point we're solving? It's difficult for retail investors to get access to early stage technology companies. In the late 90s, most of the early stage companies were public, so you could access them. But today, most of them stay private, and they stay private longer. Another trend was in the late 90s, most of the early stage companies were American. They were based in the US. Today, great is coming from everywhere. So it's very difficult for retail investors to get access to this type of product. The other is sometimes you need to have an accredited investor status to be able to participate in a venture fund, which generally have multi-year commitments. So this is a big pain point, and I think everyone's seen the wealth creation that's happened in the technology sector and space over the last 20 years. Again, it's very difficult for retail investors to get access to this asset class. So it keeps cutting off. Is there a way to move it? I think it's fine. It's not. So at Victory Square, we solve this pain point by providing investors with a liquid way to invest in early stage tech companies without buying a venture fund. Like I mentioned earlier, we're a publicly traded company in Canada, the US, and in Germany. And investors can invest in VST and get a basket or portfolio of vetted early stage tech companies, most private, some public now, from around the world. So here's just a quick snapshot of Victory Square. So there's 25 companies. The sectors we focus on are digital health, artificial intelligence, machine learning, virtual reality, augmented reality, climate tech, and gaming. We currently have a NAV of around 75 million. To put that in perspective, our market cap is around 12 million today, so we're trading at around an 82% discount to our NAV. Companies in a good cash flow position. We've got over 24 plus months of runway, about $6.8 million of cash in liquid securities. So no concern for dilution or having to go to the market in these difficult times when most share prices are pretty low. And so there's no concern about dilution. And one of the biggest things is there's an alignment with investors. We're owner operated, and that I think me as the CEO, have about a 15% stake in the company. And at the very beginning of Victory Square, which we started in 2017, we were funded internally. So there was I set up a $10 million line, which the company tapped into to utilize for our early investments at the very beginning. So again, there's an alignment with knowing that we weren't some sort of management team that was hired to come in and collect the paycheck. We're vested along with investors. Excuse me. So what makes us unique? We believe that the way we find a needle in a haystack is by building a magnet. And that magnet, which I kind of referenced earlier, is this venture build model. So before we do anything, we identify a pain point. So we look within our ecosystem. We look at areas or addressable markets where we have some sort of competitive advantage. Maybe we have some thought leadership in those areas. Maybe we have really good advisors in those areas. Maybe we've seen an opportunity with one of our existing portfolio companies. We then almost put out an RFP to 80 accelerators around the world. So we're based in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. We have a physical incubator there, but we're also part of a global network of 80 other accelerators around the world. So we're able to poach some of the best talents from around the world. We'll put out an RFP if there's an area that we're looking at, and these incubators will then suggest or send us references to some of these companies. And then we're not passive investors. We're actively involved. So once we've brought those or selected the companies that we like or we think fit what we're looking for, we have a team internally and a list of advisors that come in and really help those companies grow and scale. And then the last part is monetization. So this process takes, between 12 and 48 months a lot of times. And once the company's scaled up, at the monetization stage, we'll generally spin them off as their own public company. So in our portfolio of 25 companies, I think there's about 6 right now that have kind of gone through this entire graduation. And there's companies that are along the way. One of the other key things about the monetization sector is that it's at this point where we have the option to take money off the table. So, 3 to 4 years into our investment, once those companies are spun off in public, we're able to sell some of our equity in those companies once they're public, obviously at a higher valuation than what our initial entry point was. Or we have the ability to do a financing. So as these companies have been spun off, it increases the NAV of the company. And in 2020, as an example, we were able to do a financing because as those companies spun off and performed well, a lot of other investors were interested in looking at Victory Square. So we were able to monetize off of those assets, and we did the financing. I think it was around 52 cents a share, which again I led. So as a founder, participating in all the financings at all different price levels along the way. One of the other things too is that we built up these assets. We also have the ability. So in today's market, we would never want to do any sort of financing. We believe our share price is significantly below what market is. So we have the ability to access strategic debt against those assets. So there's always dry powder available for us. And there's also, I mentioned earlier, I still as the CEO have provided a convertible note that the company can tap into to grow and scale as well if we see really good opportunities. So where are we at today? So we started in 2017. The NAV was around 4 million. We had about 3 companies in the portfolio at that time. And since then, we've evaluated about 1,000 companies, selecting 25. We've invested about $13 million. The majority of that's come from management and myself. And the current NAV is around 75 million. Now, you'll see that, we had a pretty gradual growth. 2021 was kind of an anomaly year, as everyone most imagine that is in the market. Everything is trading at a significant multiple. And then in 2022, market came down. We had to reprice a lot of our assets. But we believe that, by the end of this year, we expect our NAV to increase to about 127 million. I'll get to later in the presentation as to where we believe that growth is coming from. And we've looked at one outlier in our portfolio that we believe is that's on track to build that value for us. And our business model is to grow the NAV, to double the NAV every 3 to 5 years. So how is the NAV calculated? So our portfolio is broken up into 3 categories: public, private, and incubated. for public companies, what we basically do is just to take the latest share price multiplied by the number of shares we have, and then we still adjust for a slight discount, and you'll get the public company valuation. Then a private company. So the private companies, our auditors require us to hire a third-party pricing agency to come in to evaluate and value the majority of our private companies. There are certain private companies that management will review and look at based on their last financing to come up to that category. And then there's incubated. So I mentioned we buy, build, and invest. So in the build side, we're always building internal tech and IP in-house that generally is wholly owned before it's spun out. And we place a discounted value on some of those at around $2 million. And so you'll get the incubated value. And collectively, that's what adds up to our $75 million NAV. One of the interesting things too is that both the public and private companies have been marked down. Like I mentioned, in 2021, everything was trading significantly higher, but they have been marked down according to what's happening today in the market. And our market cap is 12 million, so we're trading at an 83% discount to that right now. So I mentioned we have 25 companies, but we've got a lot of diversity. This slide kind of represents what percentage of our investments make up our entire pie of our NAV. And so there is a lot of diversity there in different sectors. So we have anchors in a lot of the different sectors which we built up over the last couple of years. So as a lot of microcap investors see, some themes get in favor and out of favor. But with the balance, we always have something that that we believe is kind of balancing out our portfolio. Some examples of some of the companies in here. Stardust Solar is the largest solar training provider in Canada. Fans Unite is a B2B esports and sports betting company. Covalence CPC, they built a Google sort of blockchain type product. Copilot.ai, AI sales automation. Victory Square Health. Again, it's kind of built like a Shopify for healthcare. So digital health companies can build on their platform and get access to their physician network and 503A and B pharmacy licenses. So a lot of diversity in there. You'll notice there's one company, Hydrate, which is what I'll talk about on the next slide, which represents a big chunk. It was a wholly owned subsidiary that we own 74% of. It's public now. It was spun off last year, and we believe that they'll be the outlier in our portfolio, and they'll be presenting later on. So if anyone's seen the Hydrate flag outside or look out for these, you can actually utilize the product and get a discount on their IV therapy treatments to the conference or directly to your hotel room. So what is Hydrate? So throughout the last couple of years, I think we've seen the acceleration of digital health. Obviously, the pandemic, locking everyone up, virtual care took off. And virtual care and traditional care, infrastructure was tested. Hospital and healthcare workers were burnt out. And so what Hydrate built is they built an all-in-one platform that allows for a nurse to provide at-home care legally. So that nurse gets basically a mobile medical business in a box. They get access to a medical director, compliance tech, and access to a pharmacy, and they can work under a PC-friendly license which we have, which allows them to perform at-home care services. Hydrate currently has around 2,000 nurses onboarded already. There's 4.2 million nurses in the U.S. And they built both a B2B and B2C model. They'll be presenting at 2:30 as well. So I highly recommend, I feel they're significantly undervalued, so I highly recommend either trying the Hydrate product out or checking them out at 2:30 where their CEO and founders will be presenting. So Hydrate is on track this year. So their 2022 year-end financials, Victory Squares and Hydrate will be out at the end of this month, and the Q1 will be out at the end of May. Hydrate's currently on track for just under $13 million in revenue. Why this is important is when we look at the EV to sales ratio for the sector, it's around 17 times for most of the companies. So what we did is we took a 5-time multiple of EV to sales, and we got a market cap of around $65 million. With VST's 74% ownership, that unlocks about $47 million value to our NAV. And so on the earlier slide where I showed the jump in growth from 2022 to 2023, that's where we've only taken into account, where Hydrate's tracking as one element for that. Not looking at any of our other portfolio companies rebounding, which we believe they will be, but this is given that we are operationally involved in this company, we can, see all the data points and are very confident in what we're estimating. So what are some of the big catalysts? I mentioned Hydrate is one of them, not only the growth in revenue, which again, it's consolidated in our balance sheet, but it's also with that revenue and with where we believe their multiple, their valuation will be, we believe that'll be a significant catalyst to the growth in our NAV. Spin-offs, so like I mentioned in the business model slide, we have two companies that are in essence about to graduate, Sawdust Solar and Draft Label. They'll be public in Q2 and Q3 of this year. Draft Label is in the digital health space and Sawdust Solar in the renewable climate tech space. And the new companies, I mentioned earlier, this venture build model, when we have, one of the benefits of having this ecosystem is when we find a company that's working, sometimes we identify other opportunities within that sector and space. And so with Hydrate, services, these nurses across all 50 states providing at-home care services, we're getting requests for a variety of different services that Hydrate doesn't provide. And so internally, we've incubated a couple of health solutions around men's health, women's health, and weight loss. One of the interesting things we've seen within the women's health sector and space, and this has really been driven by a lot of the nurses' input, is that healthcare for women has been designed by white males. And so there are a lot of women in their 40s now that are realizing there's a lot of health issues they're having because of things that were kind of dictated to them. And so, there's funding and educated women now that are really trying to disrupt and innovate, healthcare for women designed by women. And so we see a big opportunity in this sector, which we think is overlooked. But given the fact that we've got these nurses on the front line, providing us with amazing data, we're able to kind of go into these areas. So we're really bullish on these new companies that will be incubated. And again, right now, they're not valued in anything within our portfolio, but we believe they'll add significant value. On the weight loss side, it's interesting because I think a lot of people, anyone that watches sports has probably seen commercials for Ozempic or some of these semaglutides. This is something actually that we've had in our portfolio since 2017. So we had a company called Personalized Biomarkers where we were working with the company Novartis, but it was on their original drug, Victoza, which is also being used for not just diabetes, but for weight loss management. So it's a sector that we've seen that it's grown, but one of the pain points we see in that, as everyone or a number of people are going on to semaglutides, they're not going on it in an educated manner. They're, it's a comprehensive, kind of a comprehensive health approach if you are to go on one of those, and that's what the weight loss care management is for. Is for people that do go on that, it creates a number of other deficiencies that people need supplements for. So we see a big opportunity in there. Again, we've already got the physician network, nurse network, tech, pharmacy, and customers. The other big catalyst is, I mentioned earlier, our NAV sits at around 75 million today, and we believe that NAV will be around 127 by the end of the year. So, why invest in Bitcoin Square? I think the one reason why everyone's here, the one main reason is everyone's looking to make money, to find investments, to find good companies that are trading at like good value and good prices. It's that Buffett quote, it's not enough to invest in a good company, you need to have a good entry point. So, VST is a good company, and we believe the entry point is great right now. Like I mentioned, NAV is 75 million, market cap is 12, so again, significant discount to it. One of the other things when you invest, in addition to wanting to make money, you want to mitigate your downside risk exposure. So I think that discount is a significant, this diversified risk adjusted investment approach, the portfolio on the microcap space, there's such a high failure rate that being able to invest in a portfolio gives you, many shots to kind of, many shots to get it in the game, not on the game. And then there's experience, leadership, and active investment management. So like I mentioned, there's alignment. We're not a hired hired guns coming in for a paycheck. We are vested in, management's got over 15% ownership. We've got skin in the game, hard dollars. And the last, which is really important, is liquidity. You're not tied up in a 10-year fund. We're public in Canada, the US, and Frankfurt, so there's liquidity. We're audited, we're transparent. So a lot of other really key things as investors, as you have that optionality. Thank you, everyone. That's the Victory Square story. I hope if anyone has any questions, we're going to be at the conference. So we have one-on-one meetings tomorrow. So please, or if you see me around, please hit me up. You can check us out at victorysquare.com. Email us at ir@victorysquare.com or look me up on LinkedIn. Thank you, everyone. Did they go to Q&A or is there Q&A or no? Oh, perfect. Yeah. Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Nico? Yeah. So, we started the process in 2017. And so initially, we felt that this story was a story that was difficult for investors to understand. And to unlock value, that's why we originally started to spin off the companies. And so the first company was Fans Unite. And just to put it in perspective, this is a company that we owned wholly that in 2021 hit a $325 million market cap. So we had really good IP and good companies. And we continued that with VRAR and Game On and now Hydrate. I think for us right now, we believe that we've got good diversity. So we've got anchors in a lot of sectors. I don't think we're looking to spin anything out right now other than Draft Label and Stardust, which we have, I think, 30% in Draft Label and about 10% in Stardust. The key right now is to really double down on what we believe is an outline. So we are hyper focused on Hydrate because there's traction there and we think that we can unlock tremendous value for VST and VST Victory Square shareholders. If we were to look at anything else, I think I mentioned some of the new companies. So I mentioned my background is in dating, and what we used to build was these micro sites that were cash flow generating. And what we see the same opportunity for these micro sites in the digital health sector. So again, we've got our own pharmacy that has access to both 503A and B pharmacy licenses. We've got our own physician and nurse network. So we're able to build these micro health sites focused on very specific categories. That becomes, like in dating, it's a CAC and LTV game. So your customer acquisition cost and your lifetime value. So I think for us going forward, the focus is going to be on Hydrate, so not really spinning anything else out, really, extracting value from that. There's a lot of M&A opportunities in that sector. And then two, these micro sites specifically in the digital health space that we believe are going to be cash flow generating. One note just on another thing that we're seeing within the digital health sector is, over time, during these periods of uncertainty, money flows out of the market. Everyone's kind of on the sidelines. It's difficult for companies to fundraise. We believe that this is a huge opportunity for us to kind of be offensive. So in those digital health sectors where we have, a good first mover advantage, we're looking to be a bit aggressive on the Hydrate side, potentially for M&A. Any other questions? Well, yeah. I think there's variables that we can control and variables we can't control. I think the biggest variable we can control, I think, is me as the CEO. I need to do a better job of getting the story out there and articulating that value. So I think one is just a discount to the assets that the company has, and then Hydrate. If we just look at the Hydrate, business and where it's on track for this year, I think that that other comps to just that business for other companies that are trading on their own are trading at, I think a 17 times EBITDA sales multiple. So I think, it's my responsibility to do a better job to just get the story out there so that more people can see that, that A, we're undervalued, but B, that, it's a great company at a great entry point. I just got the cue that time's up, but I really appreciate, again, everyone joining for the presentation, and please feel free to catch me if you have any other questions or the one-on-ones tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you.